Hello, my friends. How you doing? Before I begin, let me pop out the chat real quick. Here we are. Wait, no, I wanna pop that out. There we go. So I can my hair. Yeah. So I can make a video and stuff. How you guys doing? I just wanted to say that, first of all, I love you guys so much, and you do not know how good God is. Um, I, I've had a lot of time to think about a lot of stuff, and, first of all, I am so thankful for what God's done for me. I was reading through some of the old comments of this channel, and people saying things like, well, where's the proof of God? Do you have any proof? Well, truth be told, if you remember Thomas, how he said that he wouldn't believe God was real unless if he touched his hands. Unless if he put his hand in his side, he wouldn't believe him that he was God. The man would not believe. And so God let him touch his side and his hands. And then he said, you are Jesus. You are God. I believe you. And God said, blessed are those who've seen and believed, but blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. Now, it's funny. A lot of people have hated on me. I mean, really badly insulted me because I'm a Christian. Just because I say I believe in God. Now, I'm not just talking about this comment section. I mean, I've had people straight up cuss me out, bully me, laugh at me. I've had coworkers and even some of my bosses when I was working had laughed at me because I said I believe in Jesus, or I love God, or I'll be praying for you. And I'll have you know that in this lifetime, people are going to judge you. But I want to make it very clear that God does exist. And there's not a doubt in my mind. Number one, it was nothing but God that I became who I am today. Because, my grandmother was one of the worst people you would ever meet. But I loved her nonetheless. I remember I would try my absolute best to please her. I would try and try and try. And I remember thinking to myself, because I would do it, and then she wouldn't care. I remember thinking, this is so pointless. I remember spending years complaining that I was cleaning the house, because I was cleaning the house by myself. I remember feeling like every single day was just empty. It was just another day to dump the trash, another day to sweep the floor, vacuum the living room, wash all the dishes by hand because the dishwasher was broken. I had so much work to do. My grandmother was OCD, so not only did I have to clean the living room, but I had to clean the bathroom. I had to clean my room, Kaylana's room, the entire house. I had to sweep the front porch. I had to take out all the trash. I had to do everything. And if I complained, I'd get beaten for it, but you guaranteed. I complained a lot, so I got beaten a lot. I got beat for all sorts of reasons. And I remember thinking to myself, this is all so pointless. What is the use of life? I had nothing before I had God. And that's the honest truth. I can tell you right now, I'm at peace. I have joy in my life. Did I have any of that back then? No. In fact, the only type of joy I had, 6 years later, he turned his back on me because he said that I'm spreading the word of God on this channel. He told me he saw me on YouTube saying that God was speaking through me, and therefore he said that I was crazy. But let me tell you something. If God puts something on your heart, if God puts something on your heart to say, you better say it. Because God told you to. Because God put it on your heart. I'm not crazy. Those who don't understand the love and mercy and grace of God, those who are the ones who are crazy. Because they're crazy enough to live life in misery. To not know what true love is. To not know what Jesus can do for you. The last few days, was extremely saddened. I was beside myself. And you want to know why? I kept thinking about what could have been with my grandmother. I kept thinking, if I could have just done something differently. If I could have but there was nothing I could have done differently. I remember trying countless of times. I remember doing everything I possibly could. And even though she beat me and did everything else, you know that I apologized to her and told her I was sorry for everything that I did to her, for every time I disrespected her, and I told her I was sorry because I had said I had hated her, and I told her that I didn't hate her. I had told her many terrible things, and I told her that I was sorry for all of it and that I loved her. That's part of being a child of God. You know, a lot of people are too busy saying, well, where's the physical proof? Why can't I see God? Why do you need to see God to know that you're loved? Can you see the air you breathe? When a breeze comes by, can you see that? No. Just because you don't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And personally, I've seen, not only have I felt the presence of my Lord and Savior, but I was transformed myself. You know, I used to have these type of anger issues. Like I would get angry. I was beside myself. Like, I'm opposite of who I was. I used to get so mad, I would punch holes in the wall. I was strong because, you know, I moved furniture, so I had that extra strength. I would get into fights. I would always take the angry approach. It only got me beaten up. It got me the name of a violent person. I was known as the freak in school. Not everyone called me that, but some people called me that. I was known as the paranormal girl because there was a lot of actual physical demons in my life. And it wasn't till... And I didn't know what it was. I thought they were ghosts. I thought, oh yeah, this is ghosts. This ain't no demon. This ain't bad. Oh yeah, it's bad alright. It was a demon. They were demons. In fact, in school, I remember, and this was before I got saved, there's these things called Elmos in school, right? They're basically projectors you use to put like a paper on there, and then it will show it on wherever you point it. Well, I remember one day, I was in class, I'll never forget, and you want to talk about proof of demons and stuff like that. When people talk about, oh, hell don't exist, demons don't exist, I've seen them for myself. I've seen both angels and demons. And I can tell you right now, that day was something else. But I wasn't in God, so I laughed at all of it. I thought it was funny. But the teacher went to turn off the Elmo, and it kept turning back on its own. She would turn it off, and this is it. Turn it off. Turn it off. And it kept turning back on. It did it 20 times, I counted. And then papers started flying around. Everyone in the class started screaming. Everyone. And someone even said, "That's Dolly's ghost boyfriend." I remember it distinctly, because I used to think you could date ghosts. I was crazy. Now that's crazy. What I believed before I got saved was crazy. And I'll tell you what, it's scary. Like, besides the natural things that can happen to you, I remember, and I'm just sharing some experiences with you before I got saved and what happened after I got saved. So, and this is what happened before. I remember I would be in this was at a cul-de-sac, this was in Tulare, and I'll never forget. I would see 5 shadows walking across the hallway, and it would be stomping, making boom, ba boom, ba boom, and it would start to go boom, ba boom, ba boom, and it would just run across the hallways. I remember one night I was laying in my bed, and I just saw this blue flame at the end of my bed just floating. And I said, "What are you?" And it just kind of tilted and floated. And I said, "What do you want?" And then it just kept floating there. And I don't actually remember what happened after that. I just remember that it wasn't there the next time. But I remember thinking to myself, that was weird. I remember seeing my family members. They would go to certain areas and then they'd just disappear. I already told you about the time when I saw, excuse me, when I saw my brother walk into a bathroom. He goes in the bathroom, I'm waiting. I saw him turn on the light and shut the door, and I waited a long while. And I finally go in there, and there was nothing there, but the light was on. And I did that because at that point I thought he was playing, because nobody waits an hour and a half or an hour to go to the bathroom. And at that point, it does not take that long to pee. I thought he was just playing, like, in the bathroom or something, like playing with soap or something, like little kids do. I mean, he was like 6 at the time. And I remember one time I saw my brother Eddie crouched down on the floor. And I remember thinking to myself, that's weird. And I was washing the dishes and I saw him crouched on the floor. And I said, "Eddie?" I turned and I walked right up to him. I'm like, "Eddie?" And then he just disappeared right in front of me. He just like imagine if something just right in front of your face just disappeared. And then things would fly at me in that house. You know how you see on the TV where you see things just go across the room? Like that? Yeah, that actually happened to me. Things would always be trying to hit me. The bathroom doors would swing open. And it would get on my last nerve. And I remember always being terrified. Scared. But I wasn't saved. Now, my brother, he was saying that at the time that he could use my grandfather's ashes to keep him protected, that he would keep his vase in his room or whatever, because he thought that would help. And I remember thinking, that's not going to protect you. I must have learned something about God. I remember as a little kid going to church maybe a couple of times when I was really little, and I remember trying, but like I didn't really learn much. I just remember trying to sing in the choir. They thought I was terrible. I remember trying to do a church booklet once, something about Mary, Jesus' mother. I don't even know what I did there. And then I just remember my cousin running track. But other than that, and then I remember Mrs. Duchess, that's my aunt. She's actually, it's complicated. Not blood related, but I always actually, when I was younger, thought that she was blood related to me. It was actually kind of cute. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. But yeah, she used to stomp her foot in church. You know how like people be like moving to the music and worshiping and praising? When I was a little kid, I didn't understand what that meant, so I thought it was weird. But as an adult, I'm like, go get it, girl. Good for you. I thought it. Now I just think it's awesome that she would do that. She was very much in church, and she very much loved church. But see, when you don't know God, you don't know. But for some odd reason, I knew I wanted to get across. And I asked my grandmother about it, and about if I could get across, and she just kind of turned around angrily. I'll never forget. She was playing her slot machine. She's in one of those spinny chairs. I'm like, hey, mom. And this is her. She's on her computer chair. And I'm like, hey, mom, can I ask you something? And this is her. She swings around real fast, and she just kind of grabs the chair, like the two sides of the chair, and she's like, let me guess. It's about you're hearing stomping noises across the floor. I'm like, yeah, how did you know that? And she's like, yeah, did your brother convince you of that? I'm like, wait, Eddie's hearing it too? And she's like, yeah. Well, don't believe the lies of your brother. And then she was mad, and I was like, can you please get me across? And she's like, just kind of stared at me angrily, and then just turned back around and started playing her game. And she did eventually get me one. You guaranteed I never took that thing off. If you're wondering why I don't have it now, I actually lost it in a pool once a few years back. I actually still had it when I moved with Nana and Papa. But I'll have you guys know, um, I didn't know much about God growing up, and again, a lot of people again claim to be atheists or claim they don't know God. This was me before not knowing God. My life was a living hell. I didn't know God. I only knew misery, pain, demons. Didn't know what demons were. I just thought they were ghosts. I'm like, oh, our house is haunted. I didn't think that, hey, that might be a demon. I didn't think that, oh yeah, God can protect me. I just thought, oh yeah. I mean, I did a little bit because I obviously got across, but I didn't know much about God. I just knew that we were Christians. I asked my grandmother, what religion are we? And she's like, oh, we're Christians. And you want to know why I even asked that? Because somebody asked me what my religion was, and I said, oh, I don't know. I'll ask my mom when I get home. Yeah, you know it's bad when you're like 15 or 16, you don't even know what religion you are. I can say confidently now that it isn't about religion, but I am a Christian, and I'm proud to be. Not because I'm trying to be prideful, but because I love Jesus. With all my heart and soul, there's nowhere I'd rather be. And it really does break my heart when people will be like, oh, well, why don't you give me proof? Why do you gotta be like that? Why do you have to be on the fence about God? He loves you. Do you know what love is? Do you know what it's like to not be loved? Because growing up, I sure felt that. And when I was told about Jesus, and when I finally learned at 19 years old about God, I was so happy. I was looking at my earliest video, and I realized when I looked at it, it said 2016, 4 years ago. Guess what? That's when I graduated. I learned that summer before I graduated about Jesus. And in those 4 years, I've learned so much about God. So much. And, you know, it's not just about reading the Bible. You don't just read the Bible to read it. You read the Bible because you want to know more about God's Word, about His love, about His mercy, about how He'll never leave you, how He's your rock and your salvation, how when the world hates you, Because God said that the world's going to hate you, but they hated him first. But that he loves you. He died for you. What I'm trying to get at is, sometimes you don't need proof. Sometimes you just need to believe. I can tell you right now, before I knew God, again, listen to my words, before I knew God, before I was a Christian, before I spoke about Jesus, before I knew about Jesus, I had nothing. And that's not an exaggeration. Sure, I had all the toys in the world, but I was a maid. I worked my entire life. The earliest that I remember having to work hard was, and I remember even as a little kid having to clean the playroom, but I mean when it got to starting to clean the house, I remember being 10 years old, all the way up till 19. Not only that, I had to raise my younger sister. I had to do things that no normal kid had to do. And I didn't know God, so I had nothing to hang on to. My mother never said, I love you. Again, listen to my words. This was before I knew Jesus. But then I learned about God. I learned about what he could do for me, who he was. I learned about this Jesus and what he could do for me. How he's always there for you. Again, my mother was never there for me growing up. My father died when I was 15. And he was my grandfather anyways. He wasn't even my real father. He was my grandfather. And my brother left when I was young too. I just remember him being like 14 or something. I know he's 2 years younger than me, but sometimes he'll be 1 year younger because, you know, I'm older than him, so I'll be older than him because my birthday's in April, his in August. But you get my point. I've lost a lot. I really have. But I gained a whole lot more too. A lot of people ask, what's your proof? Where is your proof? I don't need proof. I'm the proof. Forget physically seeing Jesus. You don't need to physically Jesus to know he exists. What you need to know is that my life that was a living hell, that had nothing. My life was Cinderella. Think of the story of Cinderella. You know how she had a fairy godmother? I didn't have no fairy godmother. No, I had Jesus. He was my way out. He was my fairy tale come true. He was the Prince of Peace that whisked me away from my pain and sorrow. And you know something? A man should examine himself. He should look in the mirror and he should see who he really is. Are you a good person? Do you have anything to live for? That's something you really need to think about. Because we as children of God, we do have something to live for. When I didn't know Jesus, I had, like I said before, nothing. I had nothing to live for. I had nothing to be happy about. I had nothing. I wanted to die. I wanted to escape. There were a few times where I was in school where I contemplated death. But you want to know something? I never did. And I'm glad I didn't. Because I'm here today to tell you that Jesus is the truth, the light, the way, the only way out of your pain. You know, somebody was telling me recently, and I won't say no names, but somebody was telling me recently that they did not agree with Christians. That they did not agree with Christians. They didn't believe in what Christians were for. He thought that Christians were terrible. And I, being a Christian, asked him, well, why do you feel this way? What led you to believe these things? And a lot of what he told me was that, well, Christians are very mean. Christians will say one thing and do the other. And he had said so many things involving Christians, but what he forgot to realize was he wasn't talking about real Christians. He was talking about those people who call themselves Christians but aren't. What I mean is, let me ask you something. If Jesus was willing to lay down his life for other people, then why can't we do anything for somebody? Like, okay, think of this. If you're sitting in a church, why can't you let a homeless person sit next to you? I mean, I understand COVID right now, but forget COVID. Just for a split second, forget COVID. I'm talking about before COVID even started. Or when it's over. Are you going to let that homeless person sit next to you? Or are you going to push them away because you think they're gross? And a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people are watching right now like, oh, there's people like that. You know, I was watching this video the other day, and it was a motivational speaker type video, and it showed actors and stuff. And this woman in particular was a chubby woman, and there was this skinny woman. And this skinny woman, she walks in and she's like, so is it true that this guy gives away big amounts of money? And this woman's like, yeah, but it's going to be a really great message. She's like, oh, I'm not here for the message, I'm here for the money. And she's like, oh. And there was one seat left, and it was next to the chubby lady. And this is the woman. She goes to sit down. She's like, she insults this woman a bunch of times, and then she goes, and the woman starts eating a candy bar, and she's like, do you have to eat a candy bar right here and stuff? And the message was literally how to treat other people. And the woman is squished with this other woman, so she's like, oh, there's not enough room here. And then this other guy's like, and she's like, is there anywhere else where I could sit? And then next thing you know, the guy stands up and he says to the woman, here, take my seat. And she's like, thank you. And then he goes to sit next to the woman. The woman's like, I'm sorry if there's not much room here. And he's like, there's plenty of room here. Now that's a man I respect. And then the motivational speaker he asked the woman to come up on stage, and he said that this is my friend, and he said that go ahead and share your story. And she said that many people fat shamed her and insulted her for the way she looked. And then he said everybody check underneath their seats, and wouldn't you know, the person who had the money under their seat was the person, you know, the person who sat next to her. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I want to say, and I'll start another stream in a little bit, but I just wanted to say that I love you guys so much, and you guys are beautiful. You guys are wonderful. Don't worry about what people say about you, because you are beautiful. Chubby, skinny, black, white, Asian, from Texas, from California, I'm pretty sure Texas is actually a part of California. I'm bad with the world map. What I mean is, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter what people think. What matters is what you and God think of you. And you know what? I think you're beautiful. I think you're wonderful. Now listen, I'm going to end the stream right now, and then I'm going to come back in a little bit. Anyways, I love you guys so much. Bye!